Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. Today, I looked at my Obsidian chest and thought, I need some more of that. So I was going to spend a decent amount of today taking down some of the Obsidian pillars in the end. But then I thought we could do something fun with that, because if you mine the pillars all the way out, this is a fun fact, something that you may not have understood about the End City pillars before. They actually go through the island all the way to the bottom of the world at y equals 0. And that is something that today we're going to use to our advantage, because I feel like a really fun thing to do down here at the bottom of the end would be to set up a base. Kind of similar to the way we set up a base under lava last week. I want this to be another base in a relatively inhospitable part of the world, basically just above the void. So we're going to dig down from one of these pillars to make a start here. The pillars are this size all the way down to the bottom, so as long as you make sure that you have your coordinates up, or that you are at least a little bit aware of your surroundings, it should be possible to dig straight down from here and get to the bottom of one of these pillars. And while we're here, I'm probably going to take down a few of these other pillars as well, just to get some more obsidian. I'm going to take down this mock nether portal that I made to prove that you cannot get to the nether from the end, and we are going to take down a whole bunch of the obsidian around here just to gather some more of it so we have more supplies for making more nether portals and doing some cool stuff with terrain generation and terraforming in future. I would love to make a biome that has a little bit of obsidian worked into it, or some builds that have obsidian worked into them, but I think for now the main thing I want to do is just gather up a bunch of it so I don't have to go through this again. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with the stuff I have planned for the end, this ring around the outside here, where we have removed the bedrock from the tops of these portals, is actually going to be the first section of a giant spaceport that I would like to build here, and I really want to get a little bit more work done on that soon. The idea is that each of these, instead of being a portal that you have to end pearl through, it's going to be a teleporter that, in theory, teleports you up to a ship above it, and in actuality, you would step through it and it would teleport you out to that ship's destination, and we'd probably build a copy of the ship flying away from the island that it eventually dropped you on, that kind of thing. So I would like to make sure the end feels a little bit more connected, but I feel like this spaceport probably has to have either like a departure lounge or some place for people to hang out, like a cafe or a bar or something. And I think it'd be really cool to have that built down here at the bottom of the end, underneath the island, as though you almost get a view out into space from this cafe or whatever it is down here. I feel like that'd be kind of cool. You're like looking out into the void as you are mulling over what your next destination is going to be. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time digging down to the bottom of the world. We are going to take care of a whole bunch of these pillars off camera, and in fact, maybe we'll do that in the form of a time lapse. Hey folks, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the time lapse, and let me talk to you about what I just did, because that was a lot of work. And I absolutely don't expect that anybody will want to follow in my footsteps and do this unless you've got a lot of time on your hands and you feel like doing something a little bit epic. There are definitely people out there who've done stuff like this before, but I imagine they do it in stages and they don't just blitz through the towers quite like that. To really grasp the enormity of that, I think we probably need to head up to the Halo here and take a look down, because down there we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 holes in the landscape that we didn't have before, and each of those is a different size of tower. And you may notice that there are some weird odd deformities in the towers that I have in this world, and it seems to be the case that since the dragon fight, since respawning the dragon a few times, those have just generated a little bit weirdly. And I don't know if a specific Minecraft update is to blame for that, if there was some kind of bug related to those towers not generating the way they should, but yeah, that has led to some of these shapes being a little bit irregular. That one there especially, that one in the middle there, is like a weird oval shape, so it's not really the shape it's intended to be. But that was... Let me actually look at my statistics for this, because I need to know how much obsidian this has been. Okay, I'm pretty certain that 23,000 obsidian, 438. I think maybe I had mined about 500 before starting this. I really should have made a note of that. But 23,000 is a number that I have mined in the last, 2 days. This is why this episode is later out than it should have been, because I really wanted to get all of these pillars done, but it's just become this monolithic, monumental task that I'm going to have to do in stages once again. And yeah, we have that amount of obsidian. Now, some of it is down here in this chest. A lot of it is in shulker boxes or back at my storage system. And I will now give you a few tips for mining obsidian. Other than, don't, because this did take a long time. If you're at all unclear about how long this has taken me, I did take a screenshot of the replay mod replays that I saved for the purposes of the time-lapse, because that looked like it all happened in a short amount of time to you guys. That was 12 and a half hours for me. If you add up all of the replay mod time-lapses from the 19th of November up to the 20th, that all amounts to roughly 12.65 hours. So that's been 12 hours of my life that I've spent doing this, and believe me, it was worth it, because having this amount of obsidian, we can do so much with it, and I hope that we'll be able to. If nothing else, I will never have to worry about gathering obsidian again. I will always have a supply of obsidian whenever I want to make a nether portal. We can make an overworld gold farm with this. We can design a volcanic biome with obsidian everywhere if we want to. Basically, anytime I want obsidian, it's going to be at my fingertips in a lot of shulker boxes, and we still have 5 towers left to go. But the main reason I really wanted to do this is so that once we get to the bottom of the island here, we really don't see any of the remaining obsidian pillars. In fact, what I would like to do is replace these holes in the ground and build sections of the spaceport in place of these towers. So the towers themselves are still going to be there sort of in spirit, but inspired by those, we're going to make a series of control towers or observation towers or something like that that are going to functionally be part of the spaceport we're going to be building here. And at the bottom of the world, at the bottom of the void, I still want to build in a kind of restaurant at the end of the universe kind of way. I would love to build a cafe or some sort of departure lounge down there. So that's what we're going to be doing for the rest of this episode if I have time, because this has, of course, taken me a fair amount of time. A couple of tips for mining out the obsidian towers if this is something you plan to do. Number 1, and I was skeptical about this originally, and this Enderman here is skeptical about it as well. In fact, I seem to have angered a few of the locals, so I'm just going to leave if I can. Oh, hello. Okay, let's do this from up here then. Okay, tip number 1, bring a beacon. And I was skeptical about this at first, like I said, but it really has made a bit of a difference. Now, of course, having haste 2 and efficiency 5 will not allow you to insta-mine obsidian. In fact, all it really does is subtract a fraction of the time that it takes to mine a block of obsidian. You're mining it in 1.7 seconds instead of 2 or something like that. With efficiency 5, it really isn't that long to break a single block of obsidian, but we are not breaking a single block of obsidian here, we are breaking 23,000. So you're going to end up adding up all of that time that you save by having a fraction of a second knocked off the time it takes to break some obsidian. Ultimately, that's going to wind up being about 2 hours or something of your time saved over the course of several of these towers. So you're really going to actually feel the time save after a while, even if it doesn't seem all that plausible. I was, like I said, not sure if that was really going to be worth the time that it took to go and set up a beacon. Trust me when I say that I was wrong about that, and it was. I would also recommend, if you possibly can, setting up the beacon as low down in the world as possible. Obviously, it still has to have sky access, and I don't know if it will go through the bedrock of the end return portal, but you will need to have the beacon fairly low down if you want to take full advantage of the beacon's area of effect, because beacons, while they will project their effects up into the sky for an unlimited distance, below the beacon it has that kind of hemispherical invisible radius, which means that if you get 50 blocks below a beacon, you will no longer have the effect. Same as 50 blocks to the sides, laterally from any side of the beacon, you're only going to get the effects in a 50 block range. The same goes underneath the beacon as well. So once I got to the bottom of areas like this, having placed the beacon on the surface here, which is at roughly, sea level, it's about Y64, Y70 kind of situation, I found myself running out of the haste effect by the time I got to the bottom of those towers. So that was really, really not great to have happen when you still had to mine out, 100 or 200 obsidian blocks. Next, and this is something that really only applies to the Java edition, unfortunately, but hopefully it is a tip that some of you will be able to take into account. If you hold down the left click button, like I'm still holding it down right now, I'm not looking at any blocks because I don't want to mine them right now, but if you hold down the left click button and then you press F3 and T, it will reload the textures and resource packs and stuff in the world, and even if you've taken your finger off the mouse, it will still think that you are left-clicking. And now, right now, I'm not actually holding down any buttons at all. I was holding the keyboard there for a second, but I can actually just stand here, take my hands completely off the mouse and keyboard, and I mine all of the blocks that are in front of me. Obviously, that's going to limit the amount you can do, and you can click a couple of times if you want to get out of that kind of auto-clicking behavior. But yeah, it will be limited to the stuff that you are looking at, so it's not going to mine out the tower for you. You will still have to move around and control where you are looking, but that can certainly save you getting a little bit of, strain in your mouse hand, and that's something that cannot be overemphasized when you are digging out an area of this size. So this has turned into a bit of an impromptu, tips for mining out large sections of Obsidian video. So sorry for that if that wasn't what you tuned in for, but I hope those tips can help some of you out a little bit. Eventually, we will be able to purge all the rest of the towers of their Obsidian as well. But for today, just so I can get this video out, some semblance of a schedule, I think I'm probably going to have to call it there. Head back to the overworld, grab myself a few glass blocks, and we are going to create a glass floor to give the illusion that we can just step out over the void and take that leap of faith looking down into the void, but still avoiding actually falling to our death. And for that, I'm coming back to my supply of glass, which I have bought from a ton of librarians, and hopefully we should be able to create a pretty decent amount of black glass. I think black is probably going to be the best color for this. It's going to look really quite unsettling to be walking out over the void over this layer of glass that will barely perceptibly be there, but I think we should be able to do this and have a really, really cool effect. And the main reason I'm doing this in the first place is so that I can build a platform from which I can build this restaurant cafe thing underneath the end island. And it's potentially not going to stay there permanently. The glass floor, the cafe is hopefully going to stay there permanently, but at least it will be good to have a platform built that we can use to stand on, so that I don't have to do all of my building from elytra using slow falling potions or something like that. Alright, time to loop you in on my progress so far. Right away, I've gone ahead and connected up all of the pillars, or at least I've connected them loosely by this series of glass walkways, and there are some that link up obviously by very straight lines because they're arranged in a formation around the center of the island. But because there are 10 of them, I can't really draw that easy of a regular shape between all of them because, yeah, I'm not quite sure of the angles and stuff here, and I don't want to just draw another circle. So what I've been doing is just connecting them up by this series of glass walkways. I'm going to fill in this central patch, and then I'm not going to worry about it for very long. I think that's probably going to be the best thing for my sanity for now until we come up with a better solution. I also, for whatever reason, expected black glass to look better down here at the void, but Instead, the effect it has is that it mutes the purple static that we are used to seeing out there in the void, and I apologize if you can't really see it all that well thanks to YouTube compression, but it is there. This purple static background, this actual, like, JPG that they've got loaded, I don't think it is a JPG, but the image they have loaded in here, this repetitive, unmoving static they have here as part of the void, is not really all that visible through the black glass. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if I'm making it look more like we are in the void of space by darkening this whole thing, and thankfully the Optifine connected glass texture is making this entire thing look like a big fog layer instead of actual glass with the connected lines between each of the panels, but I don't know if this is an improvement or not. You can let me know in the comments if you can see this, and I really apologize once again for people not really being able to see this all that well, but I will do my best to boost it in post so that you can at least see the outline of what I'm getting at here. You can tell the difference between this color and this color though, right? I don't know which is better at this stage. One other advantage of building this entire thing out of glass, though, is that Endermen will not spawn on glass. They will spawn on the Obsidian around here, which is why I've been doing my best to light it up with torches. I forgot a torch over there, and you might have seen a couple of minutes ago, although they've despawned now, a little pack of Endermen spawned down there, and I am slightly terrified of running into Endermen who can freely attack me if I accidentally look at them when I am 1 block away from the void, because, once again, we are at y equals 1 here. Like, there is very little between me and the void, and I have fireworks on my hotbar at all times, and I have my elytra firmly glued to my chest plate slot on the off chance that I accidentally look at an Enderman or an Enderman finds its way down here and decides to pick a fight. I don't think I'm going to be able to survive that, at least not until I have this glass floor in place. And apparently this is just the episode in which I do things that take a while, because once again, flooring out this glass floor has taken a while, although perhaps not as long as you might expect, considering that we've been able to trade all of this glass from librarian villagers. Didn't have to wait for any of it to smelt or anything, which was super useful, and I have a little bit left over. What I have in this shulker box is actually the answer to what we're going to be building underneath here. And the answer is not necessarily even in the materials, it's in the shulker box itself. I was thinking about the design of whatever kind of lounge bar thing I want to build underneath here, and I realized that the Ender already has these things that hang upside down from the underside of the terrain or from structures, and it's shulkers. So I figured what we would do is we would make something that looks like an open shulker dangling from the underside of this, and we can even use some endstone bricks, hang them in midair in the middle of the thing, like so, in a kind of like 4x4 design, maybe with a little bit more height on this, but you can imagine that sat in the middle of this giant shulker box, looking like a statue representation of a shulker, but then in the lid, the upside down hanging lid, you could actually create like little tables and chairs and stuff and have a layout to the place. And I love this idea now, and I really want to do that in the middle of here. Probably more or less directly underneath the return portal, although I will need to build some kind of like staircase or ladder or water drop or bubble column elevator to get to this place. So I probably don't want to put it directly under the bedrock portal, because then we would end up having to go through that if we wanted to go straight down to this place. But still, either way, we can build a shulker on the underside of this thing, and I think that's going to look really, really fun. I'm probably going to build it mainly out of blue and purple terracotta, and we could probably do a little bit of, you know, messing around with the color palette to get it to look a little bit more accurate. But for now, I think we're going to build the lid on the underside of here, and then we'll see if we can work on the base after that. But right now, we only have about 9 blocks worth of space. 11. That's 11 blocks of space under there. So that's, yeah, that's okay. That's not a huge amount, considering that if we wanted to build it like a pixel per block, then that's, you know, a 16 by 16 build underneath here. But if it's going to be hanging down from the top anyway, that really ain't too bad. You see, what I love about this is pretty much everything, and it's not finished yet by any means. I'm going to have to cut this episode a little short here, but we have made a pretty solid start. And what I've got here really is more an interpretation of a shulker than an actual attempt at pixel art, because we're not going to be building the little guy in the middle. That's just kind of there as an internal feature of the build to show like there is this central thing. Maybe the bar could be underneath there and it's just like a giant kind of hood over the top of it or something. Just internal decoration, maybe. And I love the idea that you having these glass panels in here will actually allow you to see a little bit inside the bar to the furniture that's in there if you're looking at it from the outside. So if you just swoop down here on, flying on Elytra with rockets or something, there is just this hidden shulker box almost underneath the inside of the island. And I like this a lot. I think we can do some fun stuff with this. And if nothing else, it can be a really cool thematic bar to build underneath the end island here to have our departure lounge kind of relaxation area for people who are going to be shipping out in the spaceports. And this is how you can build a base underneath the end island. You can do a whole lot of stuff down here that you never really thought about before, and it's also a pretty neat place to hide if you really want to hide yourself that badly that your opponents in some sort of PvP arena would risk coming down to this layer of the void in order to mess with you. But that is going to be it for this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I do hope you appreciate the amount of effort that went into this video, because, oh my gosh, taking down all that obsidian took time. But I really like the way this is coming together, and hopefully we'll be able to do a little bit more in the end in the near future. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.